Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Devine, and here today we have our second episode. Before we get into that part of it, I just want to say thank you for everybody that listened to the first episode. I thought it was a really special conversation and an interview with David Vega. He's a very talented guy with his clothing brand and also the music that he makes and what he does around our area. He's from my local area, and I think it's just special to have a conversation with somebody with so much talent and someone that's really trying to push the Youngstown, Ohio area so much. So I thought that conversation was really awesome to have and, talk about the local talent and whatnot. But going off of that, we're on the second episode. I'm so happy that we're here. And today, this conversation is with Andrew Cramb. Andrew Cramb is a very influential guy into my life. He has a podcast called Where Are All My Friends, where he interviews and talks to people within the music industry or people that just work in media in general as well. He interviews photographers, people in management, producers, songwriters, people that work at music labels, artists. But the thing that really attracted him to me was he is well known for being associated with the people in the alternative rap scene. Artists like Savage Gasp, Garden, Colin Volk, so on and so forth. And I've gravitated to that scene of music quite a bit. And he has worked with those guys a lot and heavy. So that's how I found his podcast and started listening to him. And he's been a big inspiration for me and also a big inspiration on this podcast. So it was really awesome getting to, have a conversation with him and kind of getting to know him a little more and about his business and what he does even outside of the podcast. So this conversation was actually recorded in about, I think, around July or late July, I think. So it's a little dated. So there's a couple things in there definitely that were dated, but I think it's still worth a listen to and finding out his story and what he's done and what he does today. So I really hope that everyone enjoys this episode, and I'll be back with you guys soon. Peace.
Good. All right, we're good. All right. Welcome back to the Thumbs Up Podcast. My name is Kyle Devine, here with Andrew Cramb. Hopefully I got your last name right on that part.
Nailed it.
Andrew Cramb, I've been listening to his podcast since the beginning. He is the host of Where Are All My Friends. He talks about music, works in the alternative hip-hop scene and other scenes as well, and a big inspiration to me. And I'm very grateful to have him on this podcast. And today we're just going to be talking about the underground rap scene, alternative hip-hop, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a different name for it. And yeah, man, if you want to say anything else about yourself, go right ahead.
Hell yeah, bro. I think you did a great job with that intro. I was sitting here listening to that. I was like, dang, all right, I sound kind of cool. It's all right, yeah. And that's funny. Everybody has some different name to call it, but I think you adequately titled that. I think that's very nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know there was a bit of beef when emo rap became heavy. Like the name of emo rap was heavy, and a lot of guys were upset with that. So I tried my best to never title it that.
Yeah, like emo rap, emo trap. Like it's I get it. Like it definitely paints the picture. And I mean, dude, I'm not an artist, so like, who am I to say?
Exactly.
But I certainly sometimes when I say that out loud, I feel like I'm an old boomer that's like out of touch. I'm like, y'all, those kids with their emo trap. And it's like, yeah, like I get it, but I also I'm always struggling for a way to not sound like a boomer when I talk about it. So
trust me, I get it. 100%.
Yeah. So
all right.
I think you did real good with that.
I appreciate it, man. But this guy, he's very involved with all of this stuff. He is it a production for
version 3?
Like tours? Yeah, version 3.
Yeah. Version 3 is a funny one. Version 3 basically was me starting something, being like, I don't fully know what I'm doing, but I know I can do stuff. Yeah. So it was like loosely the idea that it would be a record label, first off.
Okay.
And I've always been a big believer of find out what is needed and wanted and deliver it. Like in the simplest form, if you're going to get into business, if you're going to do something, like find out what your demographic wants. Like what is that thing? Find it out and then deliver the best version of it. So I kind of started version 3 as a record label. I was working at indie record labels before. I had managed artists before. So I had and I had toured with artists before. So I had all of those skills in the bag, but I was really just trying to find a way to do it with a little bit more of like a modern approach. The labels that I had worked with and a lot of the things that I was doing, I felt like they were just kind of antiquated. Like I felt like it was like, I get why this was a thing. I get why this worked, but like, we don't really need to focus on press releases anymore. Like just a selfie on Instagram will tell your audience what you're doing better than like sending out a press release to like a bunch of sites that are going to like begrudgingly post it on their site. No one's going to, it's just like, it felt backwards. And a lot of those small things where I was like, man, why don't we just try to like do this better? Like cut the fat and do the stuff that matters. So that was my approach to it. And it started, so I guess I would have called it a record label to start. And my whole idea was I would release mixtapes with all of my favorite artists on SoundCloud, just to kind of like put together kind of like a feel of the sound of things that I was paying attention to. And then from there, it was like, okay, cool. I have relationships with Spotify or these like these DSPs of like getting songs playlisted, things like that. And that seemed like something that these artists wanted, right? Like a lot of times these artists didn't want to sign to a label because they don't want to, like, they're making all their money on their own anyway. Why give up a percentage of that? So it felt like they needed help with playlisting. Nobody knew how to tour. And no, like merch, kind of like a lot of people were doing like Teespring and stuff like that, where you're spending like $19 to sell a shirt for $25, like super backwards, wonky shit. So that felt a little bit off. So like playlisting, merchandise, touring, those were like really the spots where it kind of felt like it was like a little bit off. So I was like, how do I do this while not being like a cop or a suit and like doing artist friendly things? So it started as just like really, really loose or like very like fair deals, artist friendly deals, where it was like very minimal percentages. Like typically a record label would take 85% of your royalty, your streaming royalties, and you'd get 15. If you're a huge artist, it would be a 50-50 split. So I was more like, yo, like screw this. Like let's do like 10, 20, and 30% towards the label, all the rest to the artist. And then like figure out those percentages based on how much love the artist needs and how much we do for them. And it's crazy, man, because I don't want to front like I know everything. And I've figured out like I know a lot of like the business sides, and I have a lot of relationships and playlisting and understand the numbers and the thises and the that's. But I really, throughout my entire professional career, have never been single-handedly able to like blow something up follower wise. I think that really does take being a real entertainer. Like you have to have a real vision of what you're making and what it is about, and have that personality and have that the brand so perfectly defined. And then all the hard work, whatever, that's magic to me. When people can really nail that, that is an absolute art form. So yeah, that's always something that I've respected a lot. So with version 3, that was like the big grandiose idea. And I'm sure, you know, like time, perseverance, dedication, all of the things that we hear Gary Vee talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure if you keep going with those, you will get there.
100%.
But what I found my strength was, instead of kind of fighting the uphill battle, I found the real strength was like, okay, I have the resources to get these music videos made. I have the resources to get songs playlisted. I have the resources to help the kids, artists, anybody, make art. Like if they needed help with album art, or if they wanted to work with cool designers or different people like that. Like I had enough of a network where I could connect the right people. So that's like what I started to do. And it was going really well. And I did a lot of cool releases. I did a lot of stuff with Family Pet. That was the first artist that I really worked with, and huge shouts to them. A lot of love for them. And they introduced me to a lot of people. And then it was really through them that I met a lot of the group of my other friends. And as I met the other friends, I kind of started to realize that there was definitely a need for touring as well. And me coming from, like, for a lack of better words, call it like pop punk Warped Tour world, that was what I knew the most. I knew how to get in a van and go on tour and have every booking agent and know what to do at venues. Like, you know, that's my roots. Like I am a tour manager. So I was like, damn, all these kids came from having influence. Like they, not all of them, but a lot of these artists knew all the bands that would go and play Warped Tour, like all of that. A lot of these kids like wanted to play in bands, but couldn't find dedicated members. So they were like all about touring. It was just, they were solo artists, and people, for some reason, I would say like I started doing this in like late 2017, worked on it deep 2018, and then the version 3 tours started in it started at the end of 2018 and then continued into 2019. Somehow like that scene just wasn't touring. People like didn't think it would draw or whatever. And I'm sitting there looking at the numbers and I'm like, dude, this is a no-brainer. Like these kids have the craziest fan bases, and it's such an untapped market. Like their fans are begging them to come play shows.
I agree completely.
So yeah, like I had a booking agent that I worked really, really close with, and we had worked on other artists together outside of the genre. And I hit him up and I was like, hey, I know this is a little outside of your genre. I'm not trying to take promoters for a ride. Like I'm not trying to take advantage of them. Could you book like shows in 1 to 300 cap rooms for me? We'll put together this tour. I'll promote it all. I'll do the lineup. I'll do everything. Book us door deals. I don't care. You know, like have the promoters pay us what they're comfortable with. We have a really low overhead. We're going to travel all in one vehicle. We'll stay at Airbnbs together, like really minimal expense touring just to prove the concept.
Oh yeah.
And it super worked. Like it was the craziest shows, bro. And like the camaraderie, like, I don't know. I feel bad because I don't know too much of your backstory, but like, did you come from touring or bands or anything like that side or? Okay.
Like I would have loved to.
Yeah.
Just like, cause like where I grew up and stuff like that, there wasn't like bands or anything like that. Or if there was, it was just very like, they just sat in their garage and like jammed and they called themselves a band, which we all have known plenty of those type of people. But that's like a big goal of mine, is like to end up either working in the music industry or of some sort, whether it is like pop punk, alternative hip hop, like whatever it is. I definitely want to work in some sort of it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you're in a good lane right now with this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like coming like my early days of touring, like something that I remembered so much was like the camaraderie and the friendship of like being on the road with these other artists. You're learning new things. You're inspired every night because somebody's stepping their game up performance wise, and like you're ripping jokes, and your off days, you're going places together. And it was like it was like summer camp. Like it was always summer camp. And bringing all these artists together who had been internet friends but hadn't been able to spend proper time, like it was just this instant magical bond, and it was so special. The fans loved it. So that was like the whole time of doing version 3. It's just been like kind of like touch and go, trial and error. This seems like a good idea. Let's see if it's good or not. So like the wanting to be a starry, good idea on paper, but it didn't click as hard. But then releasing music and making tours did. So that's like kind of what I doubled down on. And to be honest with you, version 3 is kind of on pause right now just because the timing got really bad. I went from doing the summer version 3 tour on the West Coast, which was super fun. That was like Garden, Savage Gasp, Convolk, Shinigami, Family Pet, Fatsy, 93 Feet of Smoke. Like, dude, we had so many homies out.
I was going to say, I saw the LA show.
Oh my God.
Like I didn't get to see it, but I watched like clips of it and stuff. And I was like, this is insane.
Dude, it was like one of my favorite days of my life, but also just like it felt like such a special little moment. That was really cool. But so all that happened, and then immediately after that tour, like a couple weeks after that tour, I was going on tour with Carly Rae Jepsen, which I know is far outside of that scene.
That's sick though. I love that.
I'm a huge fan. Yeah,
me too.
Yeah. So I just like, I mean, I love touring, and that was an opportunity that came up. A buddy of mine is her tour manager, and I was just like, yeah, why not? That's amazing. So I go out on that tour, and 2 weeks into that tour, I broke my femur, and it was so stupid. Yeah, it was so stupid. I broke my femur in Nashville, and that really paused my life. That was last July, and it took me 3 months to even walk again. And then I mean, dude, even to this day, like I'm still a little bit like limpy and a little weak. So I like get back to LA. Let's see. I live in LA. So I left LA to tour for that tour at the end of June. Middle of July, I break my leg. Stay in Florida with my parents while I was recovering for like a month. Get back to LA in like August 2019. And I'm like limpy, dude. I'm on crutches. Like I'm like not able to do anything. Like I'm
I
like,
remember seeing your Instagram stories and stuff
yeah,
like that, and I was
yeah.
like, this dude's going through it. He's
I
having
was
a rough time.
going through it, my dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so then I get back to like shittily walking, like very weak, like barely doing it, but like getting there and like kind of like, all right, what's 2020 gonna be? Like, how are we gonna do this? Like, let's start thinking about it. Kind of like going back to the gym just for like basic physical therapy things, kind of whatever, like doing that. And that, like I had started the podcast, so that was nice. I was doing Where Are All My Friends, and that was like a huge, amazing outlet because I at least had something to focus my creative energy on. So I was doing that and like kind of really focusing on that, but thinking of the tour and everything in the back of my mind. And then coronavirus happens.
Yeah,
So
it just ruined everything for everybody. Like it
yeah,
was crazy. I
totally.
personally was affected by it, like with like events I was supposed to like work on with my friend. A bunch of different things happened, you know, with work. I work at a small grocery store, so I was working almost close to 40 hours a week.
Dude,
It was crazy. It was terrible.
gnarly. And I have all of the empathy and the understanding for everybody because I don't think it's a contest of like, I never want to
Oh
be like, it
no.
ruined me so bad, whatever. Like, dude, if we're in good health, that's amazing. So like,
I agree completely.
that's, it is what it is. But I kind of learned like, dude, the last year was kind of like, you can be the victim or you can figure out a way to like do something about it. So I had to kind of adapt. Like the whole leg into coronavirus thing was crazy, but that, like, I would say it was just a temporary pause on version 3. And I think that's a good thing. I think coming back at it again, I have a buddy who's like he's just a wizard with streaming and all that. And I'd love to partner more with him. And I'd love to even open it up to help other podcasts grow and like kind of be like a podcast network and, continue playing into my strengths of, I know podcasts really well. I know tours really well. And kind of like bringing on people that are just like the best at what they do. So that's kind of the version 3 story and the very long explanation of what it is
You're
and
good.
the honest answer of I still don't really know what it is, but it's a thing. It's a
Hey,
thing to
I think whatever you're doing with it, you're doing a great job at it, man. So
thank you. Thank
I
you.
wouldn't stress like a label for it. I think you got
Cool.
too many talents just to make it one thing.
I appreciate that, man. I think like the motto, the mission statement of the company when it started was just a place to put our friends on. So it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if there's any way to help or showcase or put our friends on, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, that's it. I love that ideal. That's great.
Yeah.
So to backtrack a little bit, just a little bit.
Let's go.
So this podcast, I just kind of wanted to like talk to you a little bit more about the alternative like hip hop scene, like I said before, and just see like your views on it, like with it, like currently, like how you found it, like all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, if you don't mind.
Dude, yeah, absolutely.
All
So yeah,
right.
backtracking, a big piece of it for me was Nothing Nowhere and Family Pet.
Okay.
Um, I had worked at Equal Vision, which was an indie label, and like a mentor of mine, like one of my closest friends. He's taught me so much in music. Is this dude Johnny Minardi, and he worked with me at Equal Vision at the time. He's now at like Fueled by Ramen Electra, and he is the VP of A&R. His title is always changing. He's always leveling up. I feel bad that I'm butchering that right now, but he's just over there killing it.
Yeah.
But we were working at Equal Vision together, and he finds Nothing Nowhere, and it's like 2016, and he sends it to me, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Like it just felt so fresh. Like not at all the same, but I remember the way that people talk about Linkin Park back in the day, where it was like the first
Oh
time
yeah.
they ever heard rap and rock coming together. And Nothing Nowhere felt, there was a reminiscent feeling of like Joe or Nothing Nowhere is putting together a lot of elements from a lot of different scenes and doing it so well. And it just feels like there's going to be something bigger than just like, it just felt like something bigger.
Yeah.
So I freaked out and I was like, dude, you need to sign this. It was this whole crazy saga because like every label was going for it. And Johnny's the dude, and Johnny pulled every string possible and finessed and finagled and like made the deal so good that it couldn't be said no to. And it so much respect. But I was not responsible for any of the signing, but I was at the label and I was freaking out. Like I was so excited about it. So what did I do? I then just like doubled down. I went on SoundCloud. I went like every night after work, I would go on SoundCloud and I would just like scour through and like find whatever I could find. And I found Family Pet and I found Deathbed. I found Deathbed by them. And I was like, this is so fucking good. And I just sent them a DM. We were talking about that before the podcast started. That's why we're talking, is just DMs. I'm a big believer of that. Just like shoot people DMs and try.
Yeah,
like if you have good intentions, if you're, you know, if you believe in people, if you're trying to do something cool together, send a DM. Maybe we'll say yes. Exactly. So I sent a DM and I said, hey, I work at a record label. I don't know if it fits your style, but I really like what you're doing. And if I can ever help you, let's do it. And they responded back and they're like, hey, are you real? And I was like, yeah, I'm real. Are you real? And I'm like, yeah. So we talk on the phone and like kind of like get the vibe of like what they needed help with, whatever. And it didn't make sense to bring them to Equal Vision, but I was also managing artists. I was just trying to do everything. So I was like, damn, what if I try to manage you guys? So that's kind of that. And I really owe all of my education to finding that whole scene to them, really to Mitch and Family Pet, because he was so good at being an internet kid. Yeah. That like he shortly introduced me to 93 Feet of Smoke, who's an artist and a producer, who later on became like one of my closest friends. Like we lived together out here in LA for a couple of years. And like, I just, that was what really got me into it. I think I long-worded answered it again.
No, you're fine. Listen,
okay.
Don't stress. Just talk. You're good, man. I promise.
All right.
Yeah. Listen, you're not like one of those like people up on a stage just talking. You're fine. I promise.
All right. Good.
But no, that's crazy because I personally like, so your story like is like with like the music label and like finding Nothing Nowhere. Mine's like the flip flop of it all. Like mine was just being like a straight internet kid.
Oh,
and being on YouTube. So like it originally started with, I don't know if you ever heard of Cuff Boys at all, like the YouTube channel. No. It's this kid that originated his YouTube channel based off of he was like big into like the underground scene. He like found like Bones, Suicide Boys, like all this stuff, and he would show his mom.
I may have seen a video of this.
Yeah.
I feel like that's familiar, of like a mom hating Bones.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
And so I watched his channel for like the longest time, and I got like really into like recent, like it was more, I'd probably say that was probably when I was just about out of high school. So it was like early, or like more towards the end of like 2017. And he was posting about Little Skies.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I knew nothing about no one knew anything about him, but he was like really close friends with him. Yeah. He was making like really cool music and all this stuff. And then he dropped a music video with Lyrical Lemonade, Red Roses with Landon Cube. And Landon Cube was friends with the guy that started Cuff Boys. So it was like this full circle thing of like me finding like all these other guys like through his channel, like Bones, Suicide Boys, like Peep, like all that kind of stuff, but also finding like this new wave of like guys that are coming out like from like kind of like the underground sound.
Yeah.
And then from that I found No Jumper.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I remember listening to the Schema Posse podcast. I listened to Puya and Fat Nick, Suicide Boys, and like that's how I found like that kind of realm of it all.
Yeah.
And then I ended up backtracking even more and found out about Space Ghost Perp, Raider Clan, Bones, Xavier Wolf, Sesh Hollow Water Boys.
Yeah, you're like deep in it there. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like, it was kind of like I'd go up and then fall all the way back.
You
So
like find a more underground artist, and then that leads you to the more mainstream version, and then you're like, oh, that's weird that I missed that, and then you go
yeah,
backwards and you find something deeper underground.
it was weird because then it was just like this whole maze of like, because I was like strictly more like on the more like dark side of hip hop, like because it really wasn't like some of it wasn't like even emo rap. It was more like just dark hip hop.
Yeah,
And then I found because and then my one friend, he loves YouTube to death, like for finding
yeah,
music. He'll watch
yeah.
music videos for days and he'll just find people through that, like with the algorithm and all that stuff and the suggestions. And he found Hammer by Nothing Nowhere.
Holy shit.
And then he sent it to me because he knew like I was like a pop punk kid. I listened to
Yeah,
hardcore growing up, like all that kind of stuff. And he was like, "Dude, I think you're gonna love this song." And he sent it to me. I fell in love. Listened to all of Ruiner. Listened
yeah.
to Reaper. I fell in love with him.
You're
Um,
deep. Yeah.
and then I
Oh, you
found
went deep.
that. Yeah, and then finding that you find JV,
Yep.
which love JV just as like
Shouts to JV. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He was
internet
on the podcast.
personality.
He's the homie. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that interview, and I forget how I even what else. That was how I found Shinigami, and then that's how I found you,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
went like full blown. Like it was crazy. Like it
Yeah.
took probably a good 2 years of like just learning everything.
Yeah, it's and it's funny. I actually kind of missed a detail. So, yes, Johnny and I, like Johnny showing me Nothing Nowhere then, and going deep on that side. There was two things happening at once. Was I was working in LA, but I was living in San Diego, and I
Okay.
had a friend in San Diego who was like the absolute, like just like your friend, like the YouTube kid,
Yeah.
and he like, I swear to God, that kid is 5 to 10 years ahead on every trend and everything and everything. Like he just knows everything.
Yeah.
Anytime I feel like I'm like not relevant in culture, I just go to him and I'm like, hey, what should I know about? And he's like, here's your homework. So
Yeah.
it was the combination of Johnny bringing Nothing Nowhere to the table, me going deep on SoundCloud, and then going to my friend and him doing that. Because my friend was like showing me Oliver Francis music videos and showed me the Astari channel and like all of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a crazy one. And then that's even full circle too, because through Oliver Francis, I found Big Baby Scumbag, who then came on
Yes.
my podcast. And like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know what it is, but the thing that you and I are talking about is like is the internet discovery, like the music discovery of the internet for this scene did the same thing to all of us. And we all went
Yes.
through this weird journey. And part of me is like freaked out by it because I'm like, oh man, like they're like, the algorithms know us too well, man. But
Yeah. I
there
agree
is this
completely.
level of like that journey that I think everyone went through. And I think Peep was a huge piece of that
Oh
too.
yeah.
I think a lot of like the OG people, or I mean, like even, I don't know, I guess Bones too. Like that was before, I don't know, but there was a lot of layers because I talk to my actual artist friends, like I'll talk to 93 and I feel like a
Yeah.
poser when I talk about this because they know stuff so much deeper and they
Yeah.
know like even Shinny, like when I talk to them about it, they all know all the OG producers, everyone. Lil Aaron is another one. He knows everyone and started so far back. So I kind of feel like a poser. Like my
Yeah.
my honest truth is like I found it just like you as a fan, and then
Yeah.
I happened to have friends that were close enough to it where they could be like, take my hand, I'll show you the way. So
Yeah.
that was that.
Well, and like I'm the weird friend out of the friend group because like all my friends are like huge Drake fans or they listen to
Okay.
country music.
Oh, wow.
Big pass on country music for me.
Yeah,
Don't know about you. That's just me.
I'm out.
But I grew up from my brother listening to like Blink, Green
Yeah.
Day.
Yeah.
Then I found I don't know if you know the band H2O from New York. Like,
Yeah, dude. Like the super
yeah,
heavy hardcore band. Yeah.
yes, I feel like I grew up listening to them, Gorilla Biscuits, like all that kind of stuff was like me growing up. And then like my mom was like huge into pop music from like the 80s. So that
Tight.
was also an influence.
Like George Michael and like Wham and all
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah. It was just like all that kind of stuff. And then my dad loved 90s hip hop.
Amazing.
So I
Dude, you were
listened.
destined to have good taste in music. You
And then
have it all.
Yeah, and then I just found my dad showed me A Tribe Called Quest, Biggie,
Holy.
Tupac, like all that kind of stuff. And then a sleeper, I don't care what anybody says, Black Sheep, and the hamster commercial is the biggest reason why I love 90s hip hop. Like no
Wow.
lie, like that's literally the biggest reason. This or that, best song from the 90s in my opinion. I love that song to death. I
Respect.
used
I won't
to
fight you on that.
I used to rap in French class.
Damn.
Credit. It was a great time. But yeah,
So
I
you
it
were the
just
odd man out
yeah,
when
and
you
so that
found
was
all
like
this.
so it was a weird thing. And then the biggest factor of finding like the guys that like especially the guys that you live with, um, was I couldn't even tell you what I think I must have been listening to Nothing Nowhere and like been trying to find like interviews to like learn more about him. And there was this guy that kept popping up on my suggestion page, and his channel said Patrick CC, and
Funny.
I was like, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna watch these videos. So then I looked up like top 10 lists of emo rappers, and I was trying to find the list without like Peep because I knew about him, but like I wanted to find like new guys, and he had like 3 videos out, and I was like, okay, I'll watch these, and then I watched all of those videos. Then that's how I found Convolk too,
Okay.
was through him, and then I started making the connections. It was like Convolk, Garden, Shinigami, 93, Young Burial, and
Yeah.
then I heard about Family Pet from another thing,
Yeah.
and then it was Super Chef, and then what
Yeah.
else was it?
You found the whole gang.
Yeah, and I found the whole entire crew, and I actually like wrote like a list. Gucci High Waters,
Yeah.
Savage Gas,
Yeah.
like all those guys. And like that's how I found all of them was through that, and then it got even more in depth. I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys. Their YouTube channel is called Hive Mind.
I know that name, but I'd be fronting if I knew too much about it.
Well, they're like Patrick in a way. They're kind of more like on the hyper pop side, I guess I would say on the underground.
Is it like a podcast or like a YouTube show where it's 2 kids? It's 2 people?
Yeah, it's Riley Savage and then his Braden, his co-host.
Okay.
And
one of them is like deep in it and the other is like not as much, and they like
Yes.
kind of show each other stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know who told me about that was Fatsy.
Yes. Because they've even talked about like those group of guys before. Like they've like named them off because they do a series on their channel where they're like top 5 songs in the underground right now.
Crazy.
And they'll pick out songs, or like Riley will like be like show Braden like the new stuff like that he hasn't heard yet on the video, and they've like brought that like all those guys up, like they'll bring up like 93, like Young Burial, like all those kind of guys, like while they're showing these videos. And they especially talked about Savage Gas,
right?
Because I don't know if you ever heard of Koi.
Yeah.
And they brought Savage Gas up too, because like they have like a similar kind of vibe to them, like when they make music. So they were talking about that, and they make like really influential videos. Like they talk about stuff that I didn't even know what hyperpop was until I started watching their videos.
Yeah, you're putting me on to some good wisdom here. No, I need to pay more attention to them because that's the second time I've heard about it, and it seems like they're just like super genuinely into it. Like you can tell when people aren't doing it for the views or the likes, and they're just like a fan of the genre and do the deep dives, and it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like they don't even like just stay on one genre either. Like I don't know if you've ever heard like the Detroit rapper Sada Baby. But they've done like video, like he's been on like the underground stuff. They've done I'm trying to think, Big Baby Gucci, like all that kind of stuff. And then that too, to backtrack a little bit, before I found them, I found Mascarilla.
Oh, okay, yeah, Roger, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then that also opened up a whole new world of artists and stuff like that. His story with like how he knew everybody and Peep and him being on the documentary, and, like his stories with them. And I just
He's like, I mean, he's definitely one of the OGs of like, he was there very, very early and like believed in it and saw something there. And I have a lot of respect for him and what he's done.
I agree completely. Because it's crazy to me. Like he did the interview with Brendan Savage, and like he talked about being in that house that Brendan and Pete lived in together. Like it was like he lived there too. And I was like, this is crazy. Like he was ahead of even like them dropping stuff on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. And it's crazy too, because I feel like, I think that one of the reasons why this scene has succeeded so well is understanding, like seeing the previous like alternative culture, like for a minute, like all like pop punk world, Warped Tour, everything like that hardcore scene, that was very much like the cool alternative underground thing to be into. And I feel like something happened with that I think is very whack, where that was like people started to take themselves so seriously and be too cool for school, and it got to be pretty competitive, where it was like petty, right? Like it felt like it was this competition where there could only be like one big band or whatever. And what I really love about this new underground alternative scene is, like you were talking about, like Roger at that house with Brennan Savage and all of that, it feels like there's a lot of that, where there's like Atlanta, there's like Father in that whole house. And then there was like even Lil Aaron, like he had the mini mansion out here in Hollywood, and like so many people crashed on his couch out there and came together. And there's all these circles, right? Like there's just these collectives almost, or like these like little friend circles. But instead of it being like this competition where everybody's like versus everybody and it's like some weird energy, it's more like exciting to meet these people and to hop on a track and do a collab or to do anything. And I really felt that when I put version 3 tour together. It's like nobody had egos. Like nobody cared about what time they played or anything like that. It was just this exciting energy of everyone's coming up together. I also think a big reason for that is like a lot of these artists have put out music or have had some amount of like financial success on their own. So they don't feel like they're chilling, dude. They're comfortable. They're eating. So it's not like they just have this better idea of like everyone can succeed. And I think that's why this scene has become something so magical, because there's these little pockets of magic. And then when they meet or when the fans connect them, it's just game over.
I agree completely. I was going to say, and also too, you haven't seen, like you said, even before, it kind of became this thing with like the pop punk, hardcore, and all this stuff. It, like everyone got an ego, and it got like even cornier than what the outside world thought it was.
Yes.
Like, even like people in the scene were like, this is corny. Like people are getting weird.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see too, like to go outside of this. But like when I started really getting into like hardcore and like pop punk, I found Knocked Loose and Movements, and like seeing those group of guys like come up, like that's the first time that I saw it where it was like, this is kind of making a flip flop of like, it's not corny anymore. Like people actually like each other.
Yeah.
Like this is cool.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Those are great bands to say for that.
Yeah. And I was going to say the thing about the alternative like hip hop scene is you don't see too many like beefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like very little. Like sometimes you'll see some stuff on Twitter, but like it's not anything crazy. Or if it is, it's, you know, pretty civil compared to what a lot of other scenes and things get into. So I mean, I think that's one of the greatest things about it.
I think you'll always have some amount of beef or some amount of people that don't get along. That's natural. But for the most part, I think what there is like a really supportive element to, I don't know, call it 80% of it. Maybe there's 20% of the artists that have problems with people or it gets sketchy or sus. But like, I just feel like the ratio of people that are chill and just excited to make art is so much higher.
Yeah. I was going to say, like meeting Garden, like was the coolest thing I've ever done.
He's the nicest kid you'll ever meet, ever.
I felt like I never want to be that person that's like a stan, but I definitely had that moment when I saw him. I was at a Nothing Nowhere concert, and all of a sudden I'm with my good friend. He only knew Nothing Nowhere. He knew nobody else there, like performing. and all of a sudden I see this kid with like a little bit longer like black hair, had a beanie on, and he's running through the crowd, and I'm like, I swear to God, if that's guarded, I'm gonna freak out. And he ran right past me and like hit my shoulder, and he was like talking to these guys. I go, hey AJ, that dude right there, I love his music. I might cry. And I went up to, I was like, please tell me I can give you a hug. And then I was like, can I get a picture? And I felt so bad, but he was so nice about it and like
Well,
talked to us for a
dude,
little bit.
I mean, he was that kid. Like, he so
Yeah.
admittedly was like the fan of so many of these artists. And I think, like, I don't know, man. I think that that's like a cool. I think it's cool to be a fan of shit. I think it's cool to like let somebody know that you love what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna make their day. Like, I think it takes a lot to be like, cool, dude, fuck off. Like, thanks for supporting me. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
that's sick. That's sick to
Yeah.
know that somebody's paying attention to what you're doing. It's awesome.
Yeah. I agree completely. But I just didn't want to be like that overwhelming, like, huh,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
can I get a
Yeah.
picture? Like I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
be that. But
Yeah.
he was, like I said, he was really cool about it, took a picture with us. Just love that picture. I looked like a cheese ball. I was so happy.
There's no way. It's absolutely impossible to take a photo with somebody that you're a fan of and not look like a goob.
Oh, I
They
agree
somehow just look like
completely.
a rock star every time, and then it's just like,
Yes.
so
Like everyone thinks they look so cool when they're standing next to someone like that they love, and then you look at it, you're like, dang,
damn
that's a
it.
rough picture. That's real tough.
Yeah,
That's real tough right
yeah,
there.
yeah. That's funny.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, I think what this scene has done, not even like just like for the underground, but like even just like for popular music now, is crazy too. Um, like thinking of people like Trippie Redd, Juice World, like all those
Yeah,
type of guys. I
dude,
think
Juice World's a huge one. That was
oh yeah,
like, I mean, he was a fan of Belmont, pop punk band.
yeah,
He would like, you could see, I forget what profile it was, but I remember when I was managing Shinigami, like Shinny hitting me up being like, dude, I saw Juice World listening to my tracks on his profile. And like, he was in it, dude. Like
yeah,
he paid attention to it all. And like that commercial success was huge for everybody.
yeah. I was gonna say because like, and then you even saw like labels trying to make fake versions of like certain things. I'm not gonna say names, but
Yeah. Oh, for
there,
sure. You'd have your
there,
industry plants. You'd have your copy paste versions.
yeah. And I was just
Yeah.
like that's crazy that like this scene that's not even like publicly known, like fully yet, is making that much of an impact that they're like literally copying and pasting multiple of these from each label.
Yeah, dude. For sure.
It was
Crazy.
crazy. And like then all the industry plant videos came out about those people, and I was like, this is like the craziest thing. Just because I mean like I personally think the people that really pushed it were GBC. Actually, I wrote out a list. I was gonna say like three things that I definitely think were like the pushing factor of it was Thrax House, Schema Posse, and GBC to make it really like
Well, yeah,
this
that goes
big.
back to like that what we were saying before is like you have these little pockets of these kids that
Yes.
are just like doing the sickest shit. And then the internet makes everything so accessible. People are putting things out so quickly. So then one person sees somebody do something cool, and they're like, what if I do that, but like this? And it's just this, the evolution of it has gone so fast, bro. Like it's hard for
Yes.
me to keep up with. Like again, I feel there are times where I just feel like a boomer and I'm like, shit, I was in it and now I'm out already. Like I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
missing this, but
Because
whatever.
you
Listen to
can
what you
miss
love.
out on stuff so fast. Like especially with like up and coming artists and stuff like that, like either from SoundCloud, Spotify, anything like that, you're gonna miss at least one thing like in the
Dude.
next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Absolutely.
I mean, but I also love it because it's just so fast paced. Like I just love
Totally.
learning about more stuff like when it comes to this, but it's just a nuts concept. And like that's what I thought was so cool about Thrax House was MacNet literally just took all the people that really wanted to do it and just made GBC.
Mm-hmm.
And like that to me, like because you had, and that wasn't even Peep yet. That was what Wicca Phase, MacNed, Cold Heart, Horsehead, Nedar,
Yeah.
Doves.
You know what's funny is they're like so close to like the LA scene of music, and I really don't know any of them. Like
Really?
you'd think that in all of like it being such a super close knitted world together,
Yeah.
I've like every now and then there'll be like a show where it's like, oh yeah, cool, like I recognize them, or like a quick like hello. But like for us to like, none of us know each other at all outside of like maybe we've said hi, maybe,
Really?
which is so weird. Yeah.
And it's like so close to like genres.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what?
I
That's
have no idea.
crazy to me.
And I was even gonna say like maybe like they would say the same thing about me, but like they might not even know who the fuck I am. Like it's so that's like it's weird how so much of it ties together, yet there's still like missing links. Maybe I need to just fix that. Maybe I just need to like hit up the core GVC kids or whatever and be like, can we get some podcasts going on? Can we connect
You're the
these
guy
bridges?
that meshes the whole
Yeah.
team together.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be amazing. A massive mixtape coming out soon.
Please. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the craziest part about it all. I mean, in your opinion, like for anybody that's listening, what do you think, like almost like a starter pack, like where to start, like for finding,
Wow.
like, because that, I mean, I would love to hear your opinion on this.
Where to start as far as like digging into the genre?
Yeah.
That's such a hard answer because I think it's whack to listen to music for like cred, right? Like to be like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is the Godfather or this or whatever. Like listen to what you like.
Yeah.
So I guess like what's my advice there is like any name, you could search literally any name we said in this podcast and just listen. And if you like it and if you connect with a lyric or production or a beat, go from there kind of thing. Because as we said, like the algorithms are so good because it's like Savage Gasp. Like Gasper was a fan of all of like Shinny and all of them. And then, you know, like everybody linked up. Like he recorded Pumpkin Scream in this house that I'm in right now.
That's
He came in. Yeah.
That's
Like,
crazy.
yeah, he came over for one day and he came into 93's room and he's like, give me the most ignorant beat you could think of. And that was that. And the song was done in an hour. So like they all tie together in weird ways that you wouldn't expect, but there's not really like it ties together because of similar interests. So like I was saying, like Savage Gasp is like, he's definitely not like you really wouldn't. He's almost in his own lane now from even some of his influences. Like he's kind of found his own sound. So if you attach to that and you like that, you might find a whole wave of artists in a whole different lane because he works with a bunch of other people now.
Oh yeah.
Or, you know, it's like if you were to first find Shinigami, like he's like, I mean, I swear that kid just sees the whole world different than anything. And his inspirations, like, dude, I swear to that kid came out of a PS2 game. Like his inspirations and everything is like so like cyber, like glitchy, but like he has his own vision. And I like the more I understood him, I was like, I can't call you a genre. Like, yeah, like you made like Luna and everything when you were really sad, and you could call that like emo rap, but like
but
that's
he's
not
made so much more. Like he's made so much more than just that.
So really, I do think the answer to that is just like, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have some interest in this already. Keep digging into your favorites and you'll just like follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever, and like see the things that they're posting. And I promise you will find gold.
Yes. I think
does that answer it?
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, you're right though too, because so many of these guys, like there's a lot of like cohesion with their music, but also too, they're also all in their own sound and stuff like that. So that was perfectly worded. I agree completely.
And you'll be next. Like if you're trying to stay in a box and trying to listen to the starter pack, you'll never have that fun moment of music discovery. Whereas like if you're like, oh, I love the production on this, or like I mean, like even like Fatsy, like he used to play in hardcore bands. So like he's like super technical with guitar stuff, or he'll do all these things where he'll push these limits differently. So like if you like Fatsy's production and his, you know, like any of like the guitar bits and all that, if you do a deep dive there, you'll find other stuff. And so it's just like find the thing that you like and then just go further down that rabbit hole. And that discovery is so fun.
Yeah, not everybody's like me, and I'm trying to find out the history of everything. They're just trying to listen to some music.
Yeah. But then if you really love it, find the history, and then you'll be mind blown there too.
Yeah, the amount of videos I've watched on like all this stuff and learning, I don't know what it is about this scene and what it's become and everything, but I've just like fell in love with all of it. So
that's so important though. That's so important. I think that like the chasing, if you naturally fuck with something, you never need to justify it. Just keep go. Is it a blessing to be obsessed with something?
Yeah.
Like people talk about like, like finding people that don't have hobbies or like passion. It's like, that's such a boring person. Like if you find a thing and you're gravitating towards it, like double down on it. Like, cause that might even be part of your purpose of like your career, whatever you do. And like somebody will meet you and be like, damn, you know everything about this. And there'll be the perfect opportunity there. And you can't fake that. So like, oh my God, the deep dive is real. It's necessary.
Yeah, it's a great time, man. It's what I spend a lot of my time doing outside of this stuff in school. So
good.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. It'll pay off.
Your opinion on Oliver Francis. That's how I was curious.
Oh my God, I love him.
Dude.
I absolutely love him.
My friend Logan, he's a producer and a rapper, and he's known his music for the longest time. Like he's like that friend of yours that like is like 5 years ahead. Like he knew about Oliver Francis before like Gemini, like all that kind of like all of his.
He
like,
knew about Oliver Francis before Oliver Francis knew about Oliver Francis.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But he showed me like one of his mixtapes, like I'd probably say back in high school.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is all right. Like it's okay. And then I started listening to like him again for some reason. I forget like what like triggered it, but like I was just like, oh, I'll give it another try. And I was just like, this dude's insane. Like the type of music he makes, the production, his story, like all of it. Like it still blows my mind every day. Have you gotten to meet him?
Yeah.
That's great.
Again, I can't front like we're like boys or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, he actually through my friend who showed me all of that, they became again like close homies, but homies enough, and we went out and he came through on tour a couple. Damn, was that how long ago was that now? It was before version 3 tour. 2019. He came through on tour in 2019, and we were able to hang out before a show. And I talked to him on the phone too. He was another artist that I randomly called when I worked at Equal Vision, like back in, I don't know, probably 2017 when I first found him. Yeah. I just hit him up and I was like, hey, I work at this label. I don't know if it fits, but I love what you're doing. Like if any way that I can help you. And he was very like anti-labels. Like he like very much like, I think he thought I was like a cop. He was like, cool, man, thanks. And I was like, no, you don't get it. I'm here for it. But no, he's like, for all of the times that I have talked to him and been with him in person, he is so fucking kind and like so quiet and shy, but like humbly awesome. Yeah. And then in like, if you listen to the Big Baby Scumbag podcast I did, like we talked about him a little bit there, and like, again, he has nothing but great things to say about him.
I was going to say that whole thing. And I remember seeing, cause like you said, he's so like anti-label. And like I totally forgot that like some underground people that aren't signed go to Rolling Loud. But I remember seeing a tour video of Oliver Francis and Big Baby Scumbag at Rolling Loud together. And I'm like, Oliver Francis is on stage at Rolling Loud right now. Like I wish I was there. Like I wish I was like witnessing that whole moment.
Yeah, like he wasn't even playing, right? He was just there with them.
Yeah, like it was like this is great. Like I remember just seeing the video of like Big Baby Scumbag and Oliver Francis in the hotel. And I was like, what are they doing? And then they like jumped on the stage at Rolling Loud. I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Like it was sick. But yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just crazy. Yeah, but I think that pretty much like wraps up.
I mean, I think we did it. I think we hit, I don't know what our time was, somewhere around an hour, but I feel like that's a good little window for a podcast.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, man, I'm just stoked I got to have this conversation with you. I don't get to have like these like nerdy, like in-depth conversations too often. But so I was really stoked to get you on here and have this wonderful conversation with you, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, of course. I think like in having my own podcast, I'm a very big, it's even outside of podcasts. Like I think there's a very big important part of like paying it forward and giving everyone a chance. And it's like, how is it like, dude, we're just talking about shit that I love anyway. Like it's
Yeah.
awesome. This was a pleasure. But I think like, I hope to watch you continue to blow up and succeed. And there's going to be somebody that wants to talk on your podcast. And it's like, I think paying that forward inspires people to do and chase the shit that they love. So if we keep paying it forward, it'll just be a cycle of people doing cool stuff. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Everybody that listened, thank you so much. Andrew, if you'd like to name off your social media so people can follow you and listen to your podcast.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm at Andrew_FTW on all socials. And I think the easiest way to find the podcast is just whereareallmyfriends.com. You can find like that'll link you to watch it on YouTube or listen on any platform, whatever. Just go to the website.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it again. And thank you everybody for listening. This was the Thumbs Up Podcast. Peace out.
And that is the end of the second episode with Andrew Cramb. I really hope you guys liked this episode. Andrew has an interesting story when it comes to version 3 and how he helps artists and different things of that nature, and how he has really helped the alternative rap scene as well. That's how I found him. And then he's a very big inspiration to me, and also doing this podcast that I'm doing now. He has made me realize I want to learn more about the music industry, but also too I want to hear people's interesting stories, either within that or just in media in general. I care about media and music a lot, and I just want to learn more from other people that I'm interested in. So yeah, if you guys can, please go follow Andrew on Instagram, Andrew FTW. But also, too, go follow his podcast, Where Are All My Friends. Each episode is an amazing episode. You learn a lot from these artists and other people that work in the music industry, or as well just work in media in general. He always finds some interesting people that you won't either hear about or you have heard about. And just hearing their stories and finding inspiration in each thing if you're thinking about doing something creative, or, doing it as a hobby or even as a career. So yeah, definitely go give that a listen. But yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for doing this episode. It really meant a lot to me. But if you guys can, please go support the podcast by following Thumbs Up Pod on Instagram. And as well, go follow me at kyle.nice_ on Instagram as well. DM me, say what's up, or even just, let me know what you think about the podcast, or even let me know who you want me to interview. I would love suggestions and maybe getting to know some of my fans as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and listening to it. It means a ton to me. I've been putting a lot of hard work on trying to get this all together. So if you guys can as well, go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at Thumbs Up Podcast, and leave a comment, say what's up on there as well. And then also too on Apple Podcasts, if you could please go review it, and also just share it with friends, family, and other people as well. Even share it to your dog. Who knows? Maybe they'll like it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and supporting. I hope you guys liked this episode. This was Thumbs Up Podcast. Peace.